Hello everyone, myself Dr. Ghanesham Chavan. Welcome back in the session of Human Anatomy and Physiology 2. So students, today we will start the another topic, Central Nervous System, CNS. So in this CNS, we will come across with the introductory part of Central Nervous System. In that, first we will start with the nerve fiber. So this is the part which was remained in nervous system that we will complete in this session. So there are various factors which are affecting the speed of propagation, means speed of nerve generation and impulse conduction from one nerve to the another nerve. So that speed conduction, it depends on three elements. In that, first is amount of myelination, means how much myelination has been occurred in that neuron, whether it is neuron of central nervous system or neuron of peripheral nervous system. So the myelination has been done by the Schwann cell or oligodendrocytes. So how much amount of myelination has been done? If it is more myelination, definitely it will increase the speed of propagation. So speed of conduction of impulses will be increased. Second parameter is axon diameter. If diameter is more, definitely it will increase the speed of propagation. So more diameter containing neuron are able to give the more speed of propagation. And last factor is temperature. So here very interestingly I will tell you regarding the speed of the conduction is that in case of cool condition, cool climate, cool temperature, there may be hindrance of speed of propagation, impulse conduction. So in simple way, what is its meaning? Temperature is directly proportional to the conduction of impulse conduction. So that's why in normal temperature the speed will be increased. In less temperature, in the wintry season, definitely the speed of conduction, speed of impulse generation will be decreased, and in the sunny condition, in summer condition, it will be increased. Now classification of nerve fiber, that is very important, that you should know regarding the nerve fibers. So in that, the various characteristics that one should know when you are classifying the nerve fibers. There are specially three types of nerve fibers are available. So there the classification of these nerve fibers can be depends on these various factors. First is diameter, as we already discussed, diameter of the nerve fiber. Second is speed. So according to the diameter, temperature, it defines the speed of that typical nerve fiber. And refractory period. So these are these three important factors that will be defined the classification of nerve fibers. So in that first type, A fibers. So A fibers is having the diameter of 5 to 20 micrometer. It is the diameter of that axon nerve fiber. And whereas its speed, if you see, the speed is near about 12 to 130 meter per second. Mind well, what is the speed? Speed is near about 12 to 130 meter per second. So it is the speed. So on which speed the nerves are conducting the impulses. So it is too much fast. This A fiber is too much fast as compared with all the fibers ABC. Whereas the refractory period is absolute, very precise, very compact. Absolute refractory period is there, and speed is too much. And the examples includes the various nerves, various motor node especially, which carry the impulses, which especially the carry impulses regarding touch, pressure, thermal and joints. So whatever the sensory perceptions are there, sensory perceptions, sensory nerves are there, or the nerves which are giving order to your skeletal muscle, especially skeletal muscle for to do the activity, to show your response, through the skin or through your hand. So that are typically containing the A fibers. They are containing the A fibers. Now we will discuss regarding the B fiber. B fiber is having the diameter of 2 to 3 micrometer of axon. This it is very less, 2 to 3 micrometer. And if you see the speed is less than 15 meter per second. 15. It can be varies from 1 to 15, either or any, but the limit is 15. But whereas in A, limit is 130. So it is somewhat slower than A factor, and its refractory period is higher than the A factor. It is more than the A factor. And the examples will include the autonomic neuron brain to the spinal cord, means from the brain to the spinal cord or to the ganglia of your spinal cord, the junction between the peripheral nervous system and the spinal cord, it is called ganglia. So up to the ganglia, from brain to the up to the ganglia, whatever the neurons are there, they are containing B fibers. Okay, and it is also having the higher refractory period as compared with the A fibers. And now we will discuss regarding the C fiber. So these C fibers are nothing but the fibers which are having very less diameter, is 0.5 to 1.5 micrometer. It is very less. Whereas its speed, if you will see its speed is from 0.5 to 2 meter per second. From 0.5 to 2 meter per second. It is the very less speed. It is a slower fiber. It is called C fiber. And whereas its refractory period, if you will see, refractory period is more longer. It is more longer as compared with the B and A. So it is having highest refractory period. Whereas its examples are both B and C are having the examples of pupil to do the constriction and dilation of pupil. So it includes B and C fibers, and also the for maintenance of heart rate, for force of contraction, means in the myocardial muscle they containing B and C fibers, and also for the extension and contraction of urinary bladder, for when we are doing urination, so it contracts and relax when we are having too much urine in our bladder. So for its relaxation and contraction we require B and C fibers. So both the fibers, B and C fibers, will include in all these type of these organs. So in this fashion, now we have come across with all the types of nerve fiber that one should know. It is required for you, and whenever we are continuing any lecture, you must able to write down your short notes whenever I am discussing any point. Sometimes I will write on this side, sometimes I won't write, I will only explain, I will only tell. Okay, so these are very interesting one that you should know. Now after this we will go for next point. We will start with the next part of central nervous system. It is called meninges. The singular form is menings. Before that, one should know regarding the protection of brain. We are having brain, CNS and spinal cord. So for its protection there are having various elements. In that, first is bone. As we know, the cranium protects our brain from external side, and our spinal cord, vertebra, will protect our spinal cord, which is inside the vertebral column. Okay, so bone is the primary thing which protects from any injury, from any shock, from any sort of hammering occurs or accident occurs. After that, meninges, as it is important part, we will discuss today meninges. Menings is the singular form and meninges are the plural form. So there are three meninges that we will come across today. After that, cerebrospinal fluid, which is next to the meninges. Cerebrospinal fluid, which is covered your whole brain, and it is also having major function of absorbing shock whatever shock we are getting due to the accident or any emotional stress, so it will absorb that shock. After that, BBB, it is nothing but the blood brain barrier. So it is also one of the protection for our brain, which protects our brain from the various chemicals, from the various external stimuli or external agents which are going to be entered into our brain. So it will prevent their entry. Blood brain barrier, it is a barrier, it can be produced by the astrocytes and our blood capillaries blood. So they are having the tight junction between that blood capillaries and that astrocytes, and due to which they are not allowing any element. Only there are few elements which can cross blood brain barrier. For example, alcohol can easily pass the blood brain barrier. Glucose also can easily pass that blood brain barrier, because our brain requires too much glucose for its functioning. But only few elements, for example some psychotropic narcotic drugs like morphine, heroin, codeine, these drugs can also pass easily to your blood brain barrier, means they are able to show their effects on our brain. So these are the protective elements which can protect our brain. Now out of them, what is very important that we will discuss today, it is called meninges. So meninges, as I told you earlier, meninges are nothing but the protective covering over the brain. Here you can see they are the protective covering. So here it is a scalp, here scalp, after that it is the bone, cranium, and after that there are 3 layers. These 3 layers we will discuss today. So they are nothing but the meninges. In that, first is dura mater, which is the outermost matter. Second is arachnoid matter, it is a middle matter, and third is pia mater, it is the innermost matter. There are also various spaces that one should know in between. Now in between the dura mater and the bone, there is one space, it is called epidural space. And if you will see the epidural space, it is made up of fat, it is made up of fats and some connective tissue. That's why it is producing the cushion like structure, means it protect our meninges from bone also. If any shock will occur, so it will provide the cushion like structure. And second type of space, it is called subdural space. It is a space between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater, and that space contains the interstitial fluid. Each space contains some typical things, as in first space it contains the fats and some connective tissue, and the second space is subdural space, it contains the interstitial fluid, and the last space is called as subarachnoid space, and it is a space in between arachnoid matter and the pia mater. It is the last one, and this space is having the element, it is called cerebrospinal fluid. That subarachnoid space is deep arachnoid, and it is having the cerebrospinal fluid as a emollient. It is required for transfer, to do the transportation for every part. That cerebrospinal fluid also will discuss later in later slides. Firstly, now we will start from the various matters, various meninges. Now in that, first is this one is called dura mater. So as students, we have already discussed dura mater is the outermost matter. In Latin word, the meaning of dura is nothing but the mother, very hard, protective mother. So it is very strength, it is very hard, as mother protects the internal part, internal placenta, baby. As though baby come out from the mother womb, still mother protects it, either or, with any enemy, with any creature, any sort of problem, mother protects. That's why this is also the hard one. This dura mater is hard, it is having too much strength, and it protects the internal part, internal meninges. And this dura mater is made up of the dense irregular tissue. They are very tough, and they are protecting the internal parts. And as we know, the space between this dura mater and this arachnoid mater, it is called epidural space. Now we will go for the next. It is called arachnoid mater. Now this arachnoid mater is it is avascular. It don't have any blood vessels, whereas they are made up of the collagen fibers and the elastic fibers. And these arachnoid maters are look like the spider's web. That's why they are called as arachnoid matter. They are looks like the spider's web. And these arachnoid maters are having the space between arachnoid matter and the pie matter, which is innermost, and that space is called as subarachnoid space. Now next is the pie matter, which is the innermost pie matter. So that pie matter is made up of the epithelial, squamous epithelial and cuboidal cells, and it is also having the extension with the collagen fibers and the elastic fibers. Now this is the pie matter, and that pie matter is also having, now this is the dura mater. This pie matter also having the dentus. Okay, we'll see in next slide. First we'll go for the dura mater. Now this dura mater containing the various elements. In that, first is falx cerebri. In that falx cerebri, it is a longitudinal fissure attaches to the crista galli of ethmoid bone. This falx cerebri, which prepared by this dura mater, it is the element which divides cerebrum into two parts. That's why it is called falx cerebri. Next is falx cerebelli. This falx cerebelli is the part which divides the cerebellum into two parts. It is run ventrically along the vermis of cerebellum, and it is the tentorium cerebelli. So it is the transverse fissure between the cerebrum and the cerebellum, means it divides the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So in this fashion, this dura mater produces three types of partitions between the various parts of brain. Now here arachnoid mater. So it is in between the dura and arachnoid mater, and the space, as we have already discussed, it is called subdural space, and this subdural space contains interstitial fluid. Now dura and arachnoid cover the brain loosely. Deep to the arachnoid is subarachnoid space, and it is filled with the cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. The lots of vesicles run through it. Now in this pie matter, if you will see again, pie matter is innermost type of matter. Now here in arachnoid matter, superiorly forms arachnoid villi. The CSF walls allow draining into the dural blood sinuses. That also we will see in next slide. Now pie matter. Now pie matter is the innermost. This is the innermost type of matter. See, this pie matter is made up of the epithelial cells, squamous and cuboidal epithelial cells, as we already discussed. It is also connected with the collagen fibers as well as elastic fibers. They are having too much nutrition. They are containing the cerebrospinal fluid. They are having major functions of transportation of various nutrients. They are transporting the oxygen. They are transporting the various electrolytes also, which requires for the cerebrospinal fluid through blood as well as through the cerebrospinal fluid. So this pie matter is highly vascular. They are having too much blood vessels. Now this denticulate ligament. So this denticulate ligament is laterally attached to the arachnoid matter and deeply attached to the dura mater, and it has been attached from the foramen, from the occipital bone, from the foramen magnum toward the second vertebra of the sacrum, means from brain to the whole spinal cord. It is provided along with this pia mater. Why it is provided? Because it is having the major function to absorb the shock, and to protect the brain, internal part and that spinal cord and brain from the external stimuli, from the external shock or from the external injury. So it won't allow to have the injury. So that's why this denticulate ligament is very, very important. Now delicate clinks and brain forming convolutions. So this is the denticulate ligament that one should know. Don't forget this denticulate ligament. Now the spinal cord anatomy. In this, the posterior median sulcus, this is called, these are nothing but the partition producing sulcus. So it is called posterior median sulcus here, and anterior median fissure. This is the anterior median fissure, which divides into two parts, right and left parts. And this is the white matter. In the spinal cord you will find two matters, one is white matter and another is gray matter. So gray matter here is inside, it is brown in color, and white matter it is slightly yellowish in color. So it is inside your spinal cord. So we will discuss all this spinal cord in the another lecture also. So in shortly we will discuss what is spinal cord. It is a grey commissure with central canal. Columns of grey runs the length of the spinal cord. Posterior horns, anterior horns, which is at the posterior side it is called posterior horn, which is at the anterior it is called anterior horns. It is cell body of motor neurons. The lateral horns in the thoracic and superior lumbar cord. Now hollow central cavity, it is central canal. This is the central canal, this one. The grey matter surrounds cavity. White matter surrounds the grey matter, descending tract of the axons. And here you can see it is a H in shape. Either you can say H in shape or butterfly in shape. So this spinal cord is H in shape, and the dorsal half of H is cell bodies of interneurons, and the ventral half of the H is cell bodies of motor neurons. And there is no cortex. Like the spinal cord, but with the another layer of grey outside the white called cortex. Cerebrum and cerebellum have inner grey, the brain nuclei. The clusters of cell bodies are available there. So in this fashion, in short manner, we have discussed this spinal cord, that one should know slight knowledge regarding this spinal cord also, because we are discussing the matters, we are discussing the various meninges. Now white matter of the spinal cord, they are having myelinated and unmyelinated axons. Firstly, you should know what is myelinated. So myelinated axons are available in white matter, and the unmyelinated axons are available in grey matter. Now ascending fibers, the sensory information from the sensory neurons of the body up to the brain, means from the all the periphery, from all the skin and organs, they are transferring the information toward the brain. They are called ascending fibers. Descending fibers, they are nothing but the motor fibers, motor neurons, the motor instructions from brain to the spinal cord. Stimulates contraction of body muscles, stimulates secretion of body's glands, means they are stimulating muscles to do any function, to do walking, running, and they are giving order to the gland to do the secretion of various glands to increase or stop their secretions. Commissural fibers, white matter fibers crossing from one side of the cord to the other. Most pathway cross at some points. Most synapse 2 or 3 times along the way, for example in the brainstem and thalamus or other. Now ventricle, this is very important points that one should discuss here in the introduction of CNS. Ventricles, there are actually three types of ventricles that one should know. We will come across with here. Central cavity is expanded, and the important point is there, they are filled with the CSF. It is also called as cerebrospinal fluids. All over the ventricles you will find the cerebrospinal fluid lined by the epidermal cells. What is epidermal cell? That we have already discussed in last lectures. There are four types of glial cells or neuroglial cells. So what is that neuroglia? What are the four types of neuroglia? One is astrocytes, another is oligodendrocytes, third is epidermal cells, and fourth is microglial cells. So as we know, what is the function of microglial cells? They are involved into the phagocytosis. They are having the immunity functions. And these epidermal cells are involved into the production of cerebrospinal fluid. They are rich into the cerebrospinal fluid. They are having the tight junction at the CSF blood barrier, and they are having loose junction at the choroid plexus. So epidermal cells, these cells linings the choroid plexus. What is choroid plexus? Choroid plexus is the center for production of cerebrospinal fluid. It is making that cerebrospinal fluid into the lateral ventricles. The continuous with each other and central canal of spinal cord. Now here in this blue color, here you can see it is filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are blue colored are nothing but the ventricles. So there is pair of two lateral ventricles. So they are called lateral ventricles. There are three types of ventricles. This is a pair of lateral ventricles. After that, this is the third ventricle, and it is the fourth ventricle. So by the anterior view, this is the location of ventricles, and by the side view, left ventricle, lateral view, side view, it is there. This is the location of the ventricles. So here you can see the location of these lateral ventricles. They will found you into the cerebrum part. In both the cerebral hemisphere, right and left, you will find these ventricles, lateral ventricles, and anterior are close separated only by the septum pellucidum. So they can be separated by the septum pellucidum. So these both the lateral ventricles are separated by the septum pellucidum. Don't forget these words. I know these words are somewhat difficult, but you should recall all these words, because without recalling these words you cannot survive in pharmacy. So as we know, there are the choroid plexus. Choroid plexus are available at all these three parts, but the production of the cerebrospinal fluid will occur into the choroid plexus at lateral ventricles, and from this lateral ventricle the journey starts of the cerebrospinal fluid. Now third ventricle, this third ventricle you will find into the diencephalon. What is diencephalon? Diencephalon are nothing but the thalamus part. In the right and left thalamus part, here at the center you will find just above the hypothalamus, and in between the right and left part of the thalamus you will find this third ventricle. It is next to the lateral ventricle, and this third ventricle are the interventricular foramen. So whatever the passage occurs, means the supply of cerebrospinal fluid occurs, it can occur from the lateral ventricle to the third ventricle through the interventricular foramen. It is a narrow passage. It is narrow passage. It is called interventricular foramen, through which it enters into the third ventricle. And next is cerebral aviduct. Now fourth ventricle. So it is in the brainstem. Here you can see it is square in shape. If you see anteriorly, it is just look like kite. It is look like kite. So transportation of from this third ventricle to the fourth ventricle, it occurs through the one canal. It is called aviduct of midbrain. it is called the IV duct. Here the IV duct of cerebrum, and it is called the IV duct of midbrain at this point, from where it can enter into the fourth ventricle. And also there are two passages that we will see in next slide. The holes connect with the subarachnoid space. So from here it will connect to the subarachnoid space, and through the subarachnoid space it will transfer to the all the parts, all the spinal cord. Now cerebrospinal fluid that we will discuss here. As we know, CSF is having various functions. Firstly, we will discuss regarding its composition. The cerebrospinal fluid contains 90% water. It also contains urea, it contains protein, it contains lactates, it contains the glucose, it contains the number of glucose, it also contains the various white blood cells to protect from the various pathogens, and it also contains the various electrolytes. It contains the 6 types of electrolytes, because this CSF provides the space for neuronal impulse generation and conduction. That's why this CSF contains the 6 types of electrolytes. What are those? It contains 4 cations and 2 anions. What are 4 cations? Cations include the sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium. So these are the 4 cations they include into our cerebrospinal fluid, and it also contains the 2 anions, for example chloride, and another is bicarbonate, HCO3 minus. So in this fashion it contains the several ions which are very important, which are having key roles into the transportation to do the various functions. Now in functions, if you see, it contains the major 3 functions. In that, first function is to do the circulation, of various nutrients, glucose, the circulation of oxygen, circulation of various electrolytes through all over the brain, all over the spinal cord. It provides nutrition. Second function is to do the protection, from the shock, sudden shock which we get from the accident or from any way. And third and the important function is that it having the major function of to produce that cerebrospinal fluid, to have functions in the to the nourishment of the brain, for the nourishment of the various nerves. So for that it is having these 3 types of functions. It is made in the choroid plexus, roof of the ventricles, filtration of the plasma from capillaries through epidermal cells. As we already discussed, the epidermal cell into the CNS are responsible for the production of cerebrospinal fluid. The total volume is 80 to 150 ml, and their percentage, their production depends on their requirement. As per their requirement, they are produced into our brain. They are providing cushions and nourishment to the brain. For absorbing any shock, they are providing the cushion like structures and nourishment. They are providing nourishment with the help of providing glucose. They are providing the various nutrients like various electrolytes to the brain and to the various elements of our body. They are assayed in the diagnosis of the meningitis and the bleeding. In the diseases like meningitis and the bleeding disorders, we are, and also in case of some brain tumors also, in myoglia or brain tumor, you will find the symptoms when there is the scarcity or there is problem into our this CSF. And also in condition of the hydrocephalus and the excessive, it is nothing but the excessive accumulation of the CSF which produces the condition like hydrocephalus. The brain is filled with the maximum quantity of cerebrospinal fluid. Now here the subarachnoid space. Through this space, the circulation of this cerebrospinal fluid occurs all over the brain and the spinal cord. It is aqua blue in picture. under the thick covering of brain. It is filled with the CSF, and this red color marking are nothing but the choroid plexus. This choroid plexus we will find at the three places. One in the lateral, after that third ventricle and the fourth ventricle. So at these various places we will find this, but especially the production occurs into the choroid plexus of lateral ventricles. Now here we will discuss the journey of this cerebrospinal fluid. It starts from the lateral ventricles, and through these lateral ventricles it will go into the third ventricle through the interventricular foramen. This interventricular foramen, it is the narrow passage through which it come out and it will go toward the third ventricle. Now after the third ventricle, when it reaches to the third ventricle, after that it will go into the fourth ventricle, and through the interventricular, after interventricular foramen, the aqueduct of midbrain, this is the aqueduct of midbrain. After the lateral ventricle it will go into the third ventricle. So through the aqueduct of midbrain it will go into the fourth ventricle, and from the fourth ventricle toward the next part, so through the median aperture and the lateral aperture. So there are three portions, two lateral aperture and one middle aperture. Three apertures are there through which it can enter into the next portion of our these ventricles. So in the next portion where the villi are present, this macrovilli are present, and where through these capillaries they will transform this cerebrospinal fluid into the subarachnoid space, and through this subarachnoid villus they can drain by this arachnoid villus, and this through arachnoid villus they will transfer into the subarachnoid space, and in this fashion they will transfer. So from the lateral they will transfer into the brain. In this fashion they will transfer, they will do their journey in this fashion. After that, through the third ventricle they will transfer into the cerebellum and your midbrain, your thalamus, hypothalamus, and after that from the fourth ventricle it will transfer toward the brainstem and into the spinal cord toward the subarachnoid space. Through the subarachnoid space they will go into the spinal cord. So this is the journey of cerebrospinal fluid that one should know. I have explained you in very clear and very distinct manner. You should be able to understand. Okay, if you have any issue you can ask me at any time. Now here we will discuss very shortly the brain development. In that, from the second month the development of brain starts. So in this fashion, at the primarily it look like this. After that it will develop some structure, and here the production of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain can be divided into three parts. Into the second brain vesicles, so it can be developed into the telencephalon, diencephalon, mesencephalon, metencephalon and myelencephalon. And at the adult it can be divided into cerebrum, diencephalon, brainstem, after that brainstem, pons, medulla oblongata and the spinal cord. And there are the various ventricles which supply the cerebrospinal fluid to the various parts. Lateral to the cerebrum, third ventricle to the diencephalon. Diencephalon means thalamus, epithalamus and hypothalamus, and the cerebral aqueduct to the brainstem, midbrain, and the fourth ventricle to the brainstem of pons, varula and medulla oblongata and cerebellum, and the central canal to the spinal cord. So in this fashion it is the divisions or regions of the cerebrospinal fluid which contains the various ventricles and the another parts that one should know. You should clearly identify and should recall. Now space restriction fourth cerebral hemisphere to growth posteriorly over the rest of brain, enveloping it. Cerebral hemispheres grow into horseshoe shape continued growth causes fold and wrinkles. So from the birth it is not having too much wrinkles and folds, but when it increases, so at the primarily here you can see it is just pipe like shape, where you cannot identify clearly which part will call what. After that, after 13 week it will develop in this shape, and it don't have any wrinkles, don't have any folds. After that, from the 26th month it have developed somewhat, and finally after the 36th week, when the complete birth complete developing occurs before birth, so this is the normal brain which having all the brain parts. Now anatomical classification, if you will see, cerebral hemispheres, they are having two cerebral hemispheres: diencephalon, which contain thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus; brainstem, which contain three parts: midbrain, pons, and medulla; and cerebellum and spinal cord. So in this fashion the anatomical classification is there of our brain. In the sagittal section, here you can see this is the cerebral hemispheres, two cerebral hemispheres there, and corpus callosum is there, which connects these both cerebral hemispheres. This is thalamus, internal part; fourth is midbrain; fifth is pons; this is cerebellum; and this is the medulla oblongata. So students, in this fashion we have completed. So these are the cerebral hemispheres which are having various lobes, as we have discussed in the cranium. In the skull, in the cranium, there are various lobes like frontal lobe, parietal lobe. The same way we are having the lobes of cerebrum. So like that, the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, and the insula buried in the lateral sulcus. So in this fashion we have completed the introductory part. Now this is the next, it is called gyri. What is gyri? As it had been supposed that, I am not completely sure, it is supposed that whatever number of convolutions and whatever number of grooves and gyries are there, Sulcian gyries are there, folds and convolutions are there, that decides your intelligence, that decides your IQ level. If there are more convolutions, means you are more intelligent, you are having more and more IQ level. So here the gyri. So the gyri are nothing but the elevated ridges. They are the entire surfaces. Grooves are separated by the gyries. A sulcus is the shallow grooves, and sulci are the plural form, and deep grooves are fissures. So the gyries and the sulcus are accompanied by the one by another, side by side. So deep grooves are nothing but the sulcus or sulci, and the convolutions, the folding, the convolutions are nothing but the gyri. So gyries are elevated ridges, entire surface. Grooves separate the gyries. The sulcus is shallow grooves. Here you can see these are the fissures, deep grooves, and these are the gyrus. These are the sulcus. This is the cortex. This is the sulcus. So in these fashions, now we will discuss the blood-brain barrier. Tight junctions between endothelial cells of brain capillaries instead of usual permeabilities. So here there is tight junctions between the blood capillaries of endothelial cells and the astrocytes of the neuroglial cells. So they are producing the tight junctions. They won't allow through the cerebrospinal fluid into the brain. So they won't allow anything which should transfer from the blood capillaries to the brain. It is highly selective transport mechanism. It allows nutrients, oxygen, CO2, not a barrier against uncharged and lipid soluble molecules, allows alcohol, nicotine, and some drugs including anesthetics and the various drugs which are acting on our brain, for example narcotics and psychotropic drugs like heroin, codeine, morphine, and ketamine, LSD. So these are the drugs, or theophylline, or caffeine, tea. So these are the drugs which can cross our blood-brain barrier, and they can show their effects on our brain. So it is not easy, and the important thing is that the lipid soluble drugs are more prone to cross blood-brain barrier, more prone to cross EBB, that one should know. Now here the major ascending pathways of somatic senses, so how they can transfer from the brain towards our spinal cord. So from the spinocerebral part to the dorsal column to the spinothalamic and lastly to your periphery. Some descending pathway. So here it is a pathway of motor neurons from the brain towards your spinal cord and towards your periphery. So in this fashion, this is the pathway. Now here the various parts of cerebral cortex that we will see in next lecture. So in this fashion we have come across with the introductory session of this central nervous system. Okay, thanks a lot for hearing me. Bye.